The Haunting of Blackwood Manor. On the outskirts of a small, forgotten town stood an old and decrepit mansion. Its name had long been whispered through the chilling winds of autumn, Blackwood Manor. The townsfolk knew to avoid it, for it was said that dark and unnatural things dwelled within. But in the midst of Halloween night, as shadows lengthened and moonlight cast an eerie glow, one brave soul, Sarah, dared to step into the realm of the unknown. Sarah was no stranger to dares, especially those concocted by her fearless friends. The chilling tales of Blackwood Manor were no more than fuel for their mischief. On this Halloween, as the dare took form, Sarah found herself standing before the looming gates, a shiver coursing down her spine. She gazed at the mansion, its windows dark and brooding, and the sky above cast in a cloak of foreboding clouds. Tightening her grip on the cold iron gate, Sarah hesitated. Her friends, hidden in the shadows, urged her forward. Heart pounding, she pushed the creaking gate open and stepped onto the cobblestone path leading to the mansion. The atmosphere was oppressive, heavy with secrets that time had forgotten. As she approached the entrance, a gust of wind whispered through the overgrown garden, and the rustling leaves seemed to form ghostly murmurs. The heavy oak door creaked open at her touch, as if inviting her into the enigma that was Blackwood Manor. The mansion's interior was a labyrinth of darkened hallways and shadowed chambers. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and dust motes danced in the dim light, giving the illusion of ethereal beings flitting about. Sarah's footsteps echoed as she ventured further into the gloom, her flashlight cutting through the darkness. As she explored, she came across an ornate mirror. Its surface was clouded with age, and the reflection it held was distorted and ghostly. A chill passed through her as she glimpsed the semblance of a shadowy figure standing behind her, but when she turned, there was no one there. Her heart raced. "Who's there?" Sarah called out, her voice quivering. She was met with an eerie silence. Her bravado was waning, but the dare weighed heavily upon her. She continued through the mansion, the walls seeming to close in around her. Moments later, she entered a grand, dimly lit room adorned with moth-eaten tapestries and ancient, dusty furniture. At the center of the room stood a colossal, ancient grandfather clock, its pendulum swinging with a rhythmic cadence. She couldn't resist approaching it, for curiosity had gripped her. As Sarah reached out to touch the clock's tarnished brass, its chimes struck midnight. The sound resonated through the house, and Sarah shivered. Suddenly, the pendulum ceased its motion, and the clock's face twisted, revealing a dark, hidden compartment. Sarah hesitated before gingerly opening it. Within, she found a bundle of letters, their paper fragile with age. The letters were addressed to Eleanor Blackwood and spoke of lost love and heartbreak, the anguish of someone who had been consumed by despair. They detailed a life that had been spent in solitude, locked away from the world. The revelation of these letters sent a chill down her spine, and Sarah suddenly became acutely aware that she was not alone in the room. A shadow moved in the corner of her eye, and when she turned, she saw a figure cloaked in darkness, a man with hollow eyes and pallid skin, Mr. Blackwood, the reclusive owner of the mansion. In a voice like a whispering wind, he said, "You were not meant to find those letters, my dear." His presence was eerie, and his eyes bore into her, revealing a deep sorrow that seemed to stretch beyond the bounds of the mortal world. Sarah stammered, "I didn't mean to intrude. I was just exploring." Mr. Blackwood's gaze remained fixed on her, unrelenting. "Curiosity has a price, dear Sarah. The stories of this place are not without reason. My secrets, my solitude, are my burden to bear." With each word he spoke, the room grew darker and the air grew colder. The walls of the mansion seemed to close in around her as if the very building itself were attempting to swallow her whole. As terror gripped her, Sarah stumbled backward, leaving the letters behind. She rushed out of the room, her heart pounding, as Mr. Blackwood's mournful voice echoed in the corridors. The mansion itself seemed to conspire against her, with doors slamming shut and portraits whispering inaudible secrets. The nightmarish journey through Blackwood Manor continued, as Sarah sought a way to escape the grasp of the vengeful spirit who called it home. It was a night she would never forget, a night where curiosity had indeed come with its consequences. Halloween night at Blackwood Manor was not just a dare. It was a descent into the heart of darkness, where the supernatural met the all-too-real world of a once tormented soul. As Sarah emerged from the mansion, her friends, pale and shaken, could see the terror etched in her eyes. The haunted mansion had revealed its secrets and left an indelible mark on Sarah's soul, for Blackwood Manor was not merely a house, it was a cursed vessel of the past, a place where curiosity met the supernatural and paid the price for daring to unravel the mysteries that lay hidden within. The witches' reckoning in the heart of a dense and fog-shrouded forest lay a small, forgotten village, one that dared not venture beyond the boundaries of the woods. It was a place where secrets were whispered amongst the trees, and where the townsfolk lived in perpetual fear. At the center of their dread was a young witch, Emily, who had lived on the outskirts of the village for as long as anyone could remember. The forest enveloped the village like a shroud, its ancient trees harboring mysteries untold. On the night of All Hallows' Eve, as the moon hung low and pale, the villagers gathered around the flickering lanterns in the town square. The dread in the air was palpable, and the reason was clear. It was the witching hour, the darkest moment of Halloween night, when all manner of spirits and curses were said to roam. Emily had always been an outsider in the village, for her eyes held a gleam of ancient knowledge that the villagers couldn't understand. She lived alone in a small cottage, and her mere presence invoked whispers and side glances from those who passed her by. As superstitions grew, and as misfortunes plagued the village, the townsfolk turned their fear towards the young witch. The accusations began subtly, with hushed conversations behind closed doors, blaming Emily for their hardships. Crops withered, livestock perished, and illness struck, and the villagers grew desperate for someone to blame. In their eyes, Emily was the source of their suffering, a pawn of the supernatural. As Halloween night approached, the tension in the village reached its zenith. The townsfolk, led by a zealous few, gathered outside Emily's cottage, torches and pitchforks in hand. They came to confront the young witch. They had heard whispers of a ritual she was to perform at the witching hour and feared the consequences. Emily stepped outside her cottage, her young face pale, and her eyes filled with the weight of centuries. She knew that the villagers would come, for their dread had become insurmountable. She held a small, leather-bound book in her hands, containing the secrets of her ancestors, the powers that allowed her to communicate with the spirits of the forest. The crowd accused her, their voices a chorus of anger and fear, blaming her for the woes that had befallen them. The shadows grew longer as the witching hour approached, and Emily's fate hung in the balance. "Enough," she cried, her voice carrying an eerie resonance that silenced the crowd. "I am not your enemy, but I can help." She spoke of the ancient pact, one her ancestors had made with the spirits of the forest to protect the village, to ensure its prosperity. It was a pact of sacrifices, and the villagers had forgotten their part. As the clock's hands neared midnight, Emily led the crowd to a clearing deep in the woods, a place of ancient power. They formed a circle, and she placed a silver cauldron in the center, filling it with herbs and incense. The villagers watched in dread and anticipation, unsure of what was to come. With incantations spoken in a language older than memory, Emily lit the cauldron, sending smoke and sparks spiraling into the air. The witching hour had arrived, and the forest grew still, as if holding its breath. Shadows danced on the edges of the clearing, and the villagers shivered. Then, the spirits of the forest began to manifest. Ethereal figures, ancient and solemn, appeared in the mist. They whispered secrets and tales to Emily, revealing the villagers' role in the pact, to perform the annual ritual to honor the spirits and ensure the village's prosperity. The revelation weighed heavily on the villagers. They had forgotten their part in the pact, and in doing so, they had unleashed the misfortunes that had befallen them. The spirits' ominous whispers filled the air, recounting the stories of the village's ancestors who had made the pact. Emily implored the villagers to remember their duty, to honor the spirits and uphold the pact. She explained that the curse could only be lifted if they fulfilled their end of the bargain. The villagers listened, their fear gradually giving way to understanding and then to resolve. With the witching hour waning, they promised to perform the annual ritual and uphold the pact. The spirits, appeased by their sincerity, retreated into the forest. The fog began to lift, and the village felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from their shoulders. In the days that followed, the village underwent a transformation. The crops flourished, the livestock thrived, and the villagers found themselves in a state of unprecedented prosperity. The curse had been broken, and the fear that had once filled the air began to dissipate. Emily, though still an outsider, was no longer blamed for the village's woes. She became a guardian of their pact, ensuring that the villagers fulfilled their commitment to the spirits. Over time, her knowledge and power were embraced, and the village came to understand that the unknown could hold both peril and salvation. As the years passed, the witching hour of Halloween night became a time of reverence for the village. The pact served as a reminder that fear of the unknown could lead to suffering, but understanding and cooperation with it could bring prosperity and harmony. In the depths of the fog-shrouded forest, the village lived on, bearing witness to the ancient pact that bound them to the spirits. and Emily, the young witch who had once been shunned, had become the guardian of their shared destiny, a beacon of hope amid the whispers of the trees. The Masquerade of Shadows in the heart of an opulent, 18th-century mansion, its grandiose halls adorned with lavish tapestries and crystal chandeliers. A Halloween masquerade was in full swing. The revelers, donning ornate masks and elaborate costumes, danced and laughed beneath the flickering candlelight. Among the attendees was Cassandra, a socialite of unparalleled beauty and grace. Her costume, a flowing gown reminiscent of the finest silks of centuries past, added to her allure. Yet, as she moved through the opulent crowd, it was not her costume that drew attention but the aura of mystique she carried. As the evening wore on, an air of enchantment descended upon the mansion, and the revelers embraced the allure of the masquerade. Cassandra, however, felt a pull toward the mysterious and the unknown. She had always been captivated by tales of the supernatural, and it was on this Halloween night that her fascination would lead her to a dance with darkness. Amidst the swirl of masked guests and the ethereal strains of the chamber music, Cassandra found herself drawn to a figure shrouded in secrecy. The stranger wore a mask of ivory, a stark contrast to the vibrant hues that filled the room. Their presence was disconcerting, and Cassandra couldn't help but be intrigued. The mysterious guest stood alone in the corner of the grand hall, their mask hiding their identity. Cassandra approached, her heart beating in rhythm with the haunting melodies that filled the air. She spoke first, her voice soft as she addressed the masked figure. "Why do you linger in the shadows?" The stranger turned toward her, their eyes hidden behind the mask, but Cassandra could feel the weight of their gaze. They spoke, their voice a whisper. "I have a tale to share, a story that dances on the edge of reality and illusion, much like this masquerade." Intrigued, Cassandra invited the stranger to share their story. They led her to a more secluded part of the mansion, away from the revelry and the prying eyes of the other guests. There, beneath the soft glow of an antique candelabrum, the stranger began to weave a narrative of chilling beauty. The tale was of a bygone era, a time when the mansion had been home to a grand family. The family had hosted opulent masquerades and their own dark secrets, including a forbidden love that had led to a tragic demise. The stranger's words painted vivid images of the past, and Cassandra was enraptured by their storytelling. As the story unfolded, the line between reality and illusion became blurred. Cassandra felt as though she had stepped into a ghostly tableau of the past, the walls of the mansion echoing with the specters of long-forgotten guests. The stranger's words held a mesmerizing power, and the atmosphere grew increasingly terrifying. The tale reached its climax with a haunting revelation. The mansion itself was haunted by the spirits of the past, and Cassandra was dancing amidst their world. The stranger removed their mask, revealing eyes that glowed with a spectral light. Cassandra's heart raced as she realized the truth. She had become a part of the stranger's story, drawn into a world where the past and present intertwined in a dance of darkness. The mansion's grand hall, once filled with revelry, was now populated by shadowy figures, their masks concealing the horrors of their existence. The laughter had turned to eerie whispers, and the chamber music had become a mournful dirge. Cassandra was trapped in a nightmare, a masquerade of shadows that threatened to consume her. Desperation gripped Cassandra, and she sought to escape the spectral dance. The stranger, their eyes now filled with a haunting sadness, extended a hand to her. "You can leave this world, but only if you carry the weight of our secrets with you," they whispered. Cassandra knew that her only chance lay in accepting the stranger's offer. She reached out, and the moment their hands touched, a surge of cold energy coursed through her. She was pulled from the mansion's spectral embrace, the echoes of the past fading as she found herself back in the grand hall. The masquerade returned to its opulent splendor. The revelers continued their festivities, unaware of the dark journey Cassandra had undertaken. She stood alone, her heart heavy with the secrets she now carried, her encounter with the supernatural etched into her very being. As the night drew to a close, Cassandra made her way to the exit, the mansion's facade illuminated by the first light of dawn. She could no longer deny the existence of the supernatural, nor the blurred line between reality and illusion. Her encounter with the mysterious stranger had left an indelible mark, a reminder of the elegance and terror that could coexist in the world. The masquerade of shadows had ended, but Cassandra's dance with darkness would linger in her dreams, a haunting memory of a Halloween night where the boundary between the real and the supernatural had been irrevocably crossed. The grand mansion stood in silence, its walls echoing with the secrets of the past, and the masked revelers, unaware of the chilling tale that had unfolded within their midst, continued to dance in the fading moonlight, oblivious to the elegant yet terrifying world of the supernatural. The haunting on Elm Street on a quiet suburban street, nestled under the canopy of autumn's rustling trees. The Anderson family had just moved into their new home. It was Halloween night, a time when the veil between the living and the dead grew thin, and the neighborhood hummed with the energy of trick-or-treaters. For the Andersons, however, their new house held more than they had bargained for. The house, a charming colonial with a white picket fence, bore an eerie stillness as the family settled in. Halloween had fallen on moving day, and there was a chill in the air that had nothing to do with the season. The Andersons, John, Sarah, and their young daughter, Emily, tried to shake off the unsettling feeling that seemed to hang in the corners of every room. The first night in their new home was uneventful, but as Halloween gave way to November, strange phenomena began to unfold. Objects moved of their own accord, whispers echoed in the dead of night, and shadowy figures flickered in the periphery of their vision. Emily's dreams were haunted by a malevolent spirit, one that beckoned her from the dark corners of her mind. The family was hesitant to speak of their experiences, fearing that their neighbors might think them superstitious or worse. But the occurrences became increasingly unsettling, and they could no longer dismiss them as mere coincidence. One evening, as the Andersons sat down for dinner, their plates lifted from the table and shattered against the wall. The room filled with an eerie silence as they stared in disbelief, their fear crystallizing into something tangible. It was then that Sarah, her voice shaking, broached the subject. "We can't ignore this any longer. We have to find out what's happening in this house." John, ever the rationalist, agreed. "You're right. We need to get to the bottom of this. We can't keep living in fear." They began to research the history of the house, tracing its ownership back through the years. They discovered that it had once belonged to a reclusive widow, Eleanor, who had been shunned by the townsfolk and was said to have dabbled in the occult. Emily, too, had sensed the malevolent presence in the house, her dreams growing more vivid and terrifying. The figure that had haunted her had a name, Eleanor. It was as if the spirit sought to communicate, to share the horrors of its past. Desperate to find answers, the Andersons turned to a seance, a desperate attempt to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. They lit candles and held hands, seeking a connection to the spirit that haunted their home. As they called out to Eleanor, the room grew cold, and the candles flickered violently. The atmosphere was charged with electricity, and Emily, her eyes vacant, began to speak in a voice that was not her own. It was the voice of Eleanor, who had been wronged, betrayed, and cast aside in life, and now sought retribution in death. "I was shunned," the voice intoned, "and now you will share my suffering." The seance spiraled into chaos, the malevolent force taking hold of the room. The house shook, and the windows rattled, as the Andersons struggled to break free from the ghostly grip. Emily's voice, still echoing with the spirit of Eleanor, spoke of the horrors that had transpired in the house, her words chilling to the core. As the seance came to an end, the room fell into an eerie silence. Emily, her eyes returning to their usual innocence, had no memory of what had transpired. The malevolent spirit, however, had grown stronger, fueled by the Andersons' desperation to communicate with the other side. The haunting escalated, and the Andersons were thrust into a nightmare they couldn't escape. Eleanor's vengeful spirit seemed intent on inflicting the same suffering on the family that she had endured in life. Sarah, the pillar of the family, refused to let the malevolent spirit tear them apart. She turned to the knowledge she had gained from their research, attempting to perform a ritual that could banish the spirit from their home. The family gathered in the attic, where Sarah had prepared an altar with candles and symbols. The ritual began, and as Sarah chanted incantations, the house quaked with the wrath of the vengeful spirit. The malevolent force fought against their efforts, throwing objects and casting eerie shadows. With each incantation, Sarah's voice grew stronger and the spirit's power waned. A blinding light filled the room, and the malevolent force shrieked in agony. As the light subsided, the spirit was gone, and the house fell silent. Exhausted and relieved, the Andersons held each other in the attic, knowing that they had finally freed their home from the malevolent presence. The weight of the past had been lifted, and they could now live in peace. The haunting on Elm Street had come to an end, and the family had faced their fears and prevailed. They knew that the malevolent spirit had been seeking a connection, a release from its torment, and they had given it just that. The house was theirs once more, cleansed of the horrors of the past, and they could finally live without the specter of a leaner hanging over them. The Carnival of Shadows Halloween night had fallen, casting a shroud of darkness over the world. In the midst of this eerie evening, a thrill-seeker named Jake embarked on a quest to explore the unknown, to confront the deepest fears that resided within the human soul. Little did he know that his journey would take him to the long-abandoned carnival grounds, a place where his darkest nightmares would come to life. The carnival had been left to rot for decades, its attractions rusted, its lights extinguished, and its laughter silenced. It was a place of forgotten dreams and discarded memories, where time had stood still. The only remnants of its former glory were the eerie, faded posters that hinted at the sinister secrets that had once drawn crowds. As Jake ventured deeper into the abandoned carnival, the atmosphere grew surreal, and the air grew heavy with the presence of supernatural entities. The attractions, long dormant, sprang to life. The Ferris wheel creaked and turned, its decrepit carts swinging in an otherworldly dance. The ghost train rattled to life, its phantasmal passengers beckoning him to board. The carousel, though broken and decaying, whirled with malevolent glee, its spectral horses charging forward as if in pursuit. The entire carnival seemed to pulse with a sinister energy, as if the very essence of Halloween night had awakened its malevolent inhabitants. Jake, caught in the grip of both terror and fascination, stepped onto the haunted carousel. As the music played, a ghostly figure appeared before him, a ringmaster of the macabre. He grinned, his teeth jagged and sharp, and beckoned Jake to choose a spectral horse. But as Jake made his choice, the ground beneath the carousel fell away, plunging him into a darkness that seemed to stretch into infinity. The world around him dissolved into a series of nightmarish scenes, each one a tableau of his deepest fears. He found himself in a haunted forest, where shadowy figures whispered secrets and beckoned him to follow. He wandered through a twisted carnival mirror maze, where the reflections of his own fears seemed to mock him. He encountered eerie characters, clowns with hollow eyes, fortune-tellers who revealed his darkest secrets, and ghostly children who played a haunting game of tag. With each encounter, Jake's fear grew, and the line between reality and illusion blurred. The carnival seemed to feed on his terror, as if his very presence had summoned the supernatural entities that now tormented him. Desperation gripped Jake as he sought a way to escape this nightmarish carnival. He remembered the words of a fortune-teller he had encountered earlier, who had cryptically revealed that only by confronting his deepest fears could he hope to break free from the carnival's grip. Determined to face the horrors that haunted him, Jake made his way to the heart of the carnival, where a towering, decrepit circus tent beckoned him. As he stepped inside, he was confronted by a haunting reflection of himself, a doppelganger that embodied all his fears and insecurities. The doppelganger taunted him, whispering his doubts and regrets. It was a battle of wills, a confrontation with his inner demons. With each taunt, Jake's resolve grew stronger, and he began to face the truths that had haunted him for so long. In a surreal and terrifying showdown, Jake finally overcame the doppelganger, a scream of anguish and triumph echoing through the eerie carnival grounds. The supernatural entities that had tormented him began to dissipate, and the carnival attractions returned to their state of decay. As Jake stepped out of the circus tent, he found himself back in the real world. The abandoned carnival once again a silent and lifeless place. Halloween night had given way to the first light of dawn, and the world outside the carnival was no longer shrouded in darkness. The Carnival of Shadows had come to an end, and Jake had confronted his deepest fears and emerged victorious. The allure of the unknown had led him to a place of unimaginable horrors, but it was also a journey of self-discovery and triumph. As he walked away from the long-abandoned carnival grounds, Jake knew that the darkness he had faced would stay with him forever, a reminder of the power of fear and the strength of the human spirit. Halloween night had shown him the true nature of terror, and he had emerged from the experience forever changed. The curse of the jack-o'-lantern in the heart of a rural town, nestled under the watchful gaze of a full moon. Tom was known as the farmer who owned the cursed pumpkin patch. The whispered rumors of malevolent spirits and ancient curses had long plagued the patch, but Tom paid them no mind. For years, he had tended to his pumpkins with unwavering dedication, and this Halloween would be no different. The small, rural town buzzed with anticipation as Halloween approached. The air grew crisp, and the leaves rustled with an otherworldly energy. Children and families flocked to Tom's patch, eager to choose the perfect pumpkins for their jack-o'-lanterns. Tom, the weathered farmer, had heard the legends of the cursed patch since he was a boy. The story spoke of a vengeful spirit that had been bound to the land by a powerful witch centuries ago. It was said that anyone who dared to carve a jack-o'-lantern from a pumpkin plucked from the cursed patch would unleash the spirit, inviting its wrath. But Tom had always dismissed the tales as superstition. To him, the pumpkins were his livelihood, and he couldn't afford to let such legends deter him from his trade. He prided himself on the quality of his pumpkins, and this year he was determined to carve the grandest jack-o'-lantern the town had ever seen. On Halloween night, under the radiant glow of the full moon, Tom chose the plumpest, most vibrant pumpkin from his cursed patch. The pumpkin felt cool to the touch, and its vivid orange skin seemed to pulse with an eerie energy. As he began to carve, he felt a sensation of unease, as though he were being watched by unseen eyes. Tom's hands moved with a sense of urgency, his knife cutting into the pumpkin's flesh with precision. He carved a wicked grin, and when he placed a candle inside, the jack-o'-lantern flickered to life, its malevolent face casting eerie shadows. But as the first candle flame ignited, a sinister presence filled the air. The moonlight took on a ghastly hue, and the temperature dropped as the vengeful spirit of the patch began to manifest. It was a formless, shadowy entity, its malevolence palpable. Tom could feel the spirit's hatred and fury, and he knew he had made a grave mistake. He watched in horror as the jack-o'-lantern came to life, its eyes glowing with an unholy light. The spirit had been released, and it sought revenge for centuries of captivity. The pumpkin patch itself seemed to come alive, the cursed pumpkins transforming into grotesque, contorted faces. The vines writhed and reached out, forming a twisted, spectral army. The malevolent spirit led the charge, its wail echoing through the night. As the spirit descended upon the town, chaos erupted. The townsfolk, unaware of the curse that had been unleashed, were besieged by the supernatural forces. The possessed jack-o'-lanterns wreaked havoc, their glowing eyes and wicked grins striking terror into the hearts of those who had once come to Tom's patch with joy. Desperation gripped Tom as he realized the extent of his mistake. He had unwittingly unleashed a force of vengeance that he was powerless to control. The malevolent spirit sought retribution, and he was responsible for the chaos it had wrought. With the town in disarray, Tom knew he had to confront the vengeful spirit and put an end to its reign of terror. He ventured back to the cursed patch, where the spirit's power was at its strongest. The night was fraught with peril, and the moon hung heavy in the sky, casting an otherworldly light. As he faced the malevolent spirit, Tom could feel the weight of centuries of anger and betrayal. The spirit's formless presence seemed to envelop him, threatening to consume him. But Tom had a plan that required him to confront the spirit's thirst for revenge and to seek forgiveness. With a voice filled with determination, Tom spoke to the vengeful spirit, acknowledging the curse that had bound it to the land for so long. He expressed remorse for his ignorance and asked for the spirit's mercy. It was a desperate plea, and as he spoke, he could feel the malevolent force waver. The spirit, though filled with rage, had longed for release. It had yearned to be freed from the curse that had bound it. And Tom's words resonated with the spirit's desire for freedom. In a moment of surreal intensity, the malevolent spirit began to dissipate, its formless presence fading into the night. The jack-o'-lanterns lost their malevolent glow, and the vines that had writhed with supernatural energy returned to their dormant state. The town was left in disarray, but the terror had come to an end. Tom had confronted the consequences of tampering with the supernatural and had paid the price for his folly. He knew that the curse of the jack-o'-lantern was far from forgotten, but the malevolent spirit had been appeased, and the pumpkin patch was no longer a place of dread. As the first light of dawn broke over the rural town, the cursed patch remained silent and still. The townsfolk would never forget the Halloween night when malevolent spirits had been unleashed, but they had learned the price of revenge, and Tom had learned the value of forgiveness. The cursed pumpkins were once again forgotten, their secrets buried beneath the soil, a reminder of the allure of the unknown and the dangers of meddling with the supernatural. The Haunting on Halloween Lake. In the heart of a tranquil forest, nestled beside the serene Halloween lake, a cozy lakeside cabin awaited a group of friends eager to celebrate Halloween. The cabin, an isolated haven surrounded by the beauty of nature, was the perfect setting for their festive gathering. The friends, each brimming with excitement, arrived at the cabin on the eve of Halloween. The air was crisp, and the full moon cast an ethereal glow over the lake's still waters. Inside the cabin, they had adorned it with eerie decorations, and the warmth of the fireplace contrasted with the autumn chill outside. As the night descended upon them, the friends gathered by the lake, sharing tales of ghostly legends and supernatural encounters. Halloween Lake, they had heard, was known for its mysterious aura, a place where the boundary between the living and the spirit world grew thin on Halloween night, unbeknownst to them. Their festivities had disturbed the peace of the lake, awakening a vengeful water spirit that had long been bound to its depths. The spirit had been stirred from centuries of slumber, and it sought retribution for the intrusion of the friends upon its realm. As the group continued their celebration, the lake began to respond to their presence in eerie and unpredictable ways. Ripples danced across its surface without explanation, as if the very water held a hidden grudge. The friends laughed it off as mere quirks of nature, oblivious to the malevolent force lurking below. It was not until the early hours of Halloween, when the moon was at its zenith, that the water spirit's wrath became undeniable. An otherworldly chill filled the cabin, and the flickering fire struggled to ward off the unnatural cold. Shadows danced on the walls, casting eerie shapes that defied explanation. A friend, leaning too close to the lake's edge, suddenly found themselves dragged into the water by an unseen force. The others watched in horror as the water spirit, a formless entity with eyes that glowed like deep-sea creatures, rose from the lake, its fury evident in every ripple and wave. The water spirit spoke with a voice that was a haunting whisper on the breeze, a voice that seemed to come from the very depths of the lake. It demanded retribution for the disturbance of its watery domain, and it sought to claim the friends as penance. Desperation gripped the group as they scrambled to escape the lake's malevolent grip. The water spirit's watery tendrils reached out, dragging them into the depths with a relentless strength. The lake seemed bottomless, an abyss of darkness and despair. But as the friends fought for their lives, a realization dawned upon them. They were in the realm of an elemental spirit, a creature of water and vengeance. In the heart of Halloween Lake, the friends were powerless against the water spirit's wrath. As the water spirit's grasp tightened, the friends turned to the spirit's demand for retribution. They offered their apologies for the intrusion, for their disregard of the lake's ancient history and sacred nature. They pleaded for forgiveness, acknowledging the error of their ways and the consequences of their actions. The water spirit hesitated, its glowing eyes studying the sincerity of their pleas. It was a moment of tense anticipation, as the friends prayed for mercy from the elemental force that held their fates in its watery grasp. With a final, chilling wail, the water spirit released its hold on the friends and retreated into the depths of Halloween Lake. The lake, once again serene and still, seemed to accept their apologies and the recognition of its sacred nature. The friends, shaken and humbled by their encounter, emerged from the water, their Halloween celebration transformed into a harrowing brush with the supernatural. They knew they had been granted a second chance, a chance to respect and revere the elemental spirits that dwelled in the world around them. As Halloween night came to a close, the group made a solemn pact to protect the sanctity of the natural world and to honor the ancient spirits that resided within it. They left the lakeside cabin with a newfound understanding of the consequences of disrespecting nature and the wrath of elemental forces. Halloween Lake, once a place of haunting terror, had granted them a lesson in humility and respect. Its waters remained tranquil, and the moon continued to cast its gentle glow. The friends knew that their encounter with the water spirit would forever remind them of the power of the natural world and the need to preserve its mysteries, even on Halloween night. The Forest of the Lost Souls. It was a moonless Halloween night, the air heavy with the promise of the supernatural. Jane, an adventurous traveler, found herself deep within the heart of a dense and haunted forest. The towering trees, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers, seemed to claw at the very fabric of reality. Jane's decision to explore the forest was born of her insatiable curiosity, a desire to experience the unknown. She had heard of the forest's haunted reputation, a place where the boundary between the living and the spirit world was thin on Halloween night. It was a temptation she could not resist. As she ventured deeper into the forest, her flashlight casting eerie shadows, a sense of disorientation overcame her. The dense undergrowth, suffocating in its thickness, seemed to shift and change, as if the forest itself conspired to lead her astray. Jane's heart pounded as she realized that she was hopelessly lost. Panic clawed at her mind, and her calls for help were met with an eerie silence. It was then that she first heard the whispers, the ghostly murmurs that seemed to come from all directions, their voices both alluring and unsettling. The forest, it appeared, was not as deserted as it had seemed. Jane was not alone. for the spirits of the forest had taken an interest in her. They appeared as shadowy figures, their forms insubstantial and ethereal. Their faces were obscured by darkness, and their presence radiated an otherworldly chill. The spirits guided Jane deeper into the forest, their whispers urging her to follow. She had no choice but to heed their direction. Her trepidation mingled with a strange fascination. The forest had ensnared her, and the spirits were the key to her escape. As she walked deeper into the labyrinthine depths of the forest, the night seemed to stretch on endlessly. Time itself had lost its meaning, and Jane's sense of reality wavered. The forest was a place of forgotten memories, a realm where desires and fears blended into an enigmatic tapestry. The spirits revealed fragments of their stories to Jane, tales of lost souls who had ventured into the forest, never to return. They spoke of desires unfulfilled, dreams abandoned, and regrets that had bound them to the spirit world. The forest, it seemed, was a place where one's deepest desires and fears held sway, and those who succumbed to its allure were forever trapped within its depths. As Jane listened to the stories, she realized that the forest was a place of entrapment, where one's desires could lead to eternal bondage. The spirits, as spectral guides, were both tempting and cautionary, their purpose to show Jane the consequences of her curiosity. The forest seemed to shift and transform as Jane journeyed deeper into its depths. The trees twisted and contorted, their branches forming eerie archways that beckoned her forward. The ground was soft and yielding, like an embrace that refused to let her go. Jane's journey through the forest became a nightmarish odyssey, where the boundary between reality and illusion blurred. The spirits, their intentions inscrutable, led her to a clearing where an ancient, gnarled tree stood at the center. Its branches hung low, heavy with the weight of centuries of secrets. It was there that the spirits revealed the forest's curse, a dark revelation that chilled Jane to her core. The forest had the power to fulfill one's deepest desires, but at a price. It demanded a sacrifice, a forfeiture of one's very essence, and those who yielded to its temptations were condemned to become lost souls, forever bound to its haunted realm. The spirits, with voices filled with sorrow, spoke of their own descent into the forest's curse. They had been travelers, much like Jane, who had sought to quench their curiosity and desires. But now they were trapped, their identities and memories fading into the collective consciousness of the forest. Jane, the forest's most recent visitor, was faced with a choice: to yield to her desires and become a lost soul, or to break free from the forest's grip. The spirits urged her to turn back, to escape the allure of the unknown and to return to the world of the living. It was a decision that would define her fate. And as she stared at the ancient tree, the forest's curse closing in around her, she knew that her choice would be a testament to her strength and resilience. With a surge of determination, Jane turned away from the forest's curse, her steps retracing the path that had led her into its depths. The spirits, their voices fading into the night, watched her with a mixture of longing and hope. As Jane emerged from the forest, the moonlight bathed her in a cleansing glow, and the dense, haunted woods seemed to recede into the distance. The allure of the unknown had been a powerful force, but Jane had resisted its pull, her curiosity tempered by wisdom. Halloween night had come to an end, and the forest of the lost souls retreated into the shadows. Jane knew that she had faced the dangers of her own desires and emerged from the darkness with her identity and memories intact. The forest, however, remained a place of mystery and enchantment, a realm where the allure of the unknown would continue to tempt travelers. Jane had learned the price of curiosity and the importance of resisting the forest's curse, and she knew that her encounter with the spirits would forever serve as a reminder of the dangers of getting lost in one's desires. The shadows in the attic in a grand Victorian-era mansion. Nestled on the outskirts of a quaint town, young Lily and her family prepared for Halloween night. The sprawling mansion, an heirloom passed down through generations, was a place of faded grandeur, its hidden secrets buried beneath layers of history. Lily, a curious and adventurous girl, had always been fascinated by the stories of her ancestors and the hidden corners of her ancestral home. On this Halloween night, as the moon cast an eerie glow upon the mansion, she set out on a quest of discovery. As she ventured through the mansion, Lily came upon a hidden door that led to a narrow, winding staircase. It was a staircase that seemed to disappear into darkness, its steps worn and fragile with age. The stairway ascended to an attic, a place that had remained untouched for generations, concealed by the passage of time. The attic was a realm of forgotten memories, filled with dusty trunks, moth-eaten clothing, and relics of a bygone era. The air was heavy with the scent of aged wood and faded perfume, and the atmosphere was suffocating, as though the very walls held untold secrets. As Lily explored the attic, she noticed an old, ornate mirror hidden beneath a dusty sheet. When she uncovered it, her reflection seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly light. The mirror held a malevolent presence, a dark energy that seemed to beckon her closer. In her curiosity, Lily stared into the mirror, her own reflection distorting and shifting into grotesque forms. She felt a presence reaching out from within the mirror, a force that sought to possess her, to draw her into the depths of the glass. Lily's family, sensing her distress, ventured into the attic to find her. As they reached the top of the narrow staircase, they were greeted by a scene of eerie, supernatural occurrences. Objects moved of their own accord, and shadows danced on the walls, their forms grotesque and menacing. The malevolent presence within the mirror, now fully awakened, extended its influence over Lily, drawing her further into the depths of the glass. Her family watched in horror as she seemed to fade, her form merging with the spectral entity within the mirror. Desperation gripped Lily's family as they realized that the malevolent presence had claimed her, and they were powerless to free her from its grip. The attic, a place of forgotten memories and dark secrets, had become a realm of haunting malevolence, where the boundaries between the living and the supernatural had blurred. In a desperate struggle to save Lily, her family turned to the mansion's old records and diaries, seeking to uncover the secrets of the malevolent presence within the attic. They learned of a dark history that had been concealed for generations, a history of love and betrayal, and the curse that had bound the malevolent presence to the mansion. The attic had been a place of forbidden love, where a family member had betrayed their beloved and, in doing so, had unleashed a malevolent spirit. The spirit had been bound to the mirror, and its vengeance had festered through the years, seeking to possess the living and claim their souls. As Lily's family delved deeper into the attic's history, they discovered a ritual, a means to exorcise the malevolent presence from the mirror. It was a perilous endeavor, a journey through the realms of the supernatural, where the boundaries of time and space seemed to crumble. With love as their guide, Lily's family embarked on the ritual, their hearts filled with the determination to free her from the mirror's malevolent grip. The mansion, now a place of haunting darkness, was transformed into a battleground between the living and the supernatural. As the ritual reached its climax, the malevolent presence within the mirror seemed to shriek in agony, its grip on Lily weakening. With a final surge of determination and love, her family shattered the mirror, breaking the malevolent spirit's hold on her. The mirror's shards scattered, and the malevolent presence faded into the depths of the supernatural. Lily, now free from its grasp, returned to her family's embrace, her memories of the ordeal hazy and surreal. Halloween night had come to a close, and the mansion stood silent, its secrets and shadows vanquished. Lily's family had uncovered the dark history that had bound the malevolent presence, and they had learned the power of love and determination in the face of the supernatural. The attic, once a place of forgotten memories, would forever serve as a reminder of the secrets hidden within a family's history and the resilience of love. The mansion's faded grandeur now held a new light, a beacon of hope in the face of the shadows in the attic, and a testament to the power of love and family bonds. The curse of the masked ball in the heart of a grand 19th-century ballroom, adorned with chandeliers that cast a radiant glow and opulent tapestries that seemed to whisper tales of bygone eras. Sophia, a young debutante, stood in anticipation. The Halloween masquerade was a night of enchantment and allure, where masks concealed identities, and the boundary between the living and the supernatural blurred. The guests at the ball moved gracefully, their elaborate costumes and masks concealing their true selves. Sophia, a vision of beauty in her lace gown and ornate mask, was drawn into the allure of the masked ball, its opulence and mystery beckoning her to dance with the unknown. As the night unfolded, Sophia was introduced to a masked stranger, a gentleman whose charm and grace matched her own. Their waltz was ethereal, a dance that seemed to transcend the boundaries of time and space. The music, haunting and seductive, filled the ballroom as they twirled in perfect harmony. But as the masked guests around them joined the dance, a shadowy presence descended upon the ballroom. The music took on a mournful, discordant tone, and the guests' laughter grew hollow and eerie. Sophia's masked partner, a spectral figure, revealed himself to be one of the cursed guests. The cursed dance had begun, a nightmarish cycle that ensnared Sophia in its grip. The ballroom seemed to stretch into infinity, its walls closing in, and the masked guests, their faces twisted into grotesque expressions, danced with a malevolent energy. The spectral guests whispered to Sophia, their voices filled with longing and sorrow. They revealed the curse that bound them to the ball, a curse born of vanity and a thirst for eternal youth. Each guest had been drawn into the cursed dance, their identities fading, and their souls consumed by the ball's malevolent energy. Sophia, trapped in the nightmarish waltz, realized the true nature of the masked guests. They were souls who had paid the price of vanity, their obsession with beauty and youth leading them into a cursed existence. Now, they were condemned to dance for all eternity, their souls trapped in a never-ending masquerade. As the cursed dance continued, Sophia struggled to break free, her mask and gown weighing her down like chains. The cursed guests circled around her, their spectral hands reaching out, their faces twisted in anguish. It was a dance of despair, a grotesque parody of the opulent ball that had drawn Sophia into its grip. Desperation gripped Sophia as she realized that the only way to break the curse was to confront the masked guests and uncover the truth of their vanity and obsession. With each revelation, the spectral figures seemed to waver, their hold on her weakening. Sophia, her determination unwavering, ventured deeper into the cursed dance, unmasking the guests' darkest secrets. She learned of the price they had paid for eternal youth, the sacrifices they had made, and the consequences of their obsession. As she confronted the cursed guests, their spectral forms grew more tormented, their voices filled with sorrow and remorse. It was a battle of wills, a struggle to free herself from the nightmarish cycle and to release the masked guests from their cursed existence. The opulent ballroom, once a place of allure and enchantment, now stood as a battleground between the living and the supernatural. The cursed dance reached its climax as Sophia uncovered the final secret, a revelation that sent shockwaves through the spectral figures. With a surge of determination and the power of her own will, Sophia shattered the cursed dance, breaking the spectral figures' hold on her. The ballroom, once shrouded in darkness, was bathed in a radiant light, and the masked guests, their twisted masks fading, were released from their cursed existence. Halloween night had come to an end, and the grand ballroom stood silent, its echoes of the cursed dance fading into the past. Sophia had confronted the price of vanity and the consequences of one's actions, and she had broken the curse that had ensnared her in the nightmarish cycle. The grand 19th century ballroom, once a place of opulence and allure, now stood as a testament to the power of self-discovery and the strength of the human spirit. Sophia's mask, now cast aside, revealed the true beauty that lay within, and the masked ball, with its cursed guests, had become a distant memory of a night when the boundaries between the living and the supernatural had blurred.